Hi guys. So you might be aware of the incident that took place in Toronto recently. Someone drove a van up onto a busy sidewalk, killed 10 people, injured 16 others. And the reason I wanted to comment on this is because it's been said in some media that the perpetrator has Asperger syndrome. And as a person with Asperger syndrome, I wanted to put my 2 cents in. And I want to make it abundantly clear that this is my opinion, nobody else's opinion. I could be completely wrong, but this is what I feel. So as soon as they said he had Asperger's, things started making more sense for me. He targeted women. 8 out of the 10 people he killed were women. And apparently he belonged to some sort of internet community called incels, which stands for involuntary celibacy, which basically means he thinks women owe him sex. So I'm gonna start by saying that's not an Asperger's thing. You can be a jerk without having a disorder. I mean, maybe there is another disorder, or maybe he's just a jerk that, you know. Um, you get what I'm saying. Some of it could just be a bad personality. But I can see why someone with Asperger's would get attracted to that. Maybe more likely if they already had that bad personality, to be lured into it. Because we feel like the analogy I like is we feel like aliens a lot of the time. We have a hard time understanding what other people are doing. I get frustrated sometimes with my lack of a social life. Um, and it can be very hard to get people to understand where you're coming from. So for someone with Asperger's to see a group of like-minded people, even if like-minded in this case is incels, it's extremely appealing, alluring. You actually for once in your life feel like you belong somewhere, and people agree with you. I even feel sometimes like an alien in the autism community because I won't use identity first language. I won't call myself autistic, and I'm finding myself getting frustrated. So if I found a group that said, never call yourself autistic, I'd be all over that. So I can understand why someone maybe not the best personality anyway, and who's clearly frustrated with socializing, would gravitate towards a group like that. I can understand that. Now, the violent act and planning out the violent act is, again, not Asperger's. I don't know if he has another disorder. You would think that someone who does that would have, issues. I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate. Um, but one thing I do see in that behavior, and again, this is very much me, speculating and putting my own experience into things. I see someone who's lacking some coping strategies and lacking support. When you turn 21 where I live and you have any sort of special needs, all the support just kind of drops off. High functioning autism in particular tends to fall through every conceivable crack. Um, so there's a definite lack of support, which is probably contributing to this. But the factor that I really want to discuss is that schools, it seems to me, are holding our hands too much. Yes, we need some support, but let us flounder a little bit. Let us figure some things out. Because if you just coddle us, we don't develop any coping skills. My situation that comes to mind was in my last semester of high school in grade 12, and I had a stupid course. It should have been a good course. This teacher clearly had some challenges of her own. I'm not going to speculate what they were, but she was out of it. Whatever she was teaching was not the curriculum. It was very strange. She had us watch the Oprah episode about The Secret and make boards. Give you an example. And I got very frustrated with her, and I would get in trouble a lot in that class. I'm a very emotional reactor. I'm much better at not doing that now, but that's still a huge deficit. So you can only imagine 10 plus years ago, it was an even bigger deficit. So I got frustrated one day in class, and I said something about Italians. I have no idea why. I don't remember the context. I'm sure it wasn't that random as it sounds. I did not know that the teacher was Italian because she was using her husband's surname, and her first name wasn't particularly Italian. So I made this comment for whatever odd reason. Totally ticked off the teacher. She sent me to the hallway. But that time I was so upset, And I did feel bad too when I made that about making that comment. I went to the special ed department to talk to my teacher there, my not really my teacher, my worker person, whatever, in the special ed room, and I was having a big tantrum saying I want to get a teacher here right now. I want to have a meeting and sort this out. Blah blah blah. It was a Friday afternoon. That wasn't happening. He said we can probably do something on Monday, but we can't fix this right now. And I knew that that would ruin my weekend. I'd be perseverating all weekend. I'd be anxious all weekend. The only way I knew to get out of the situation was to say I wanted to drop the course. And because I was 18, I was able to sign some papers and do it. I wish that I hadn't been able to do it myself, but I can, and that's not, at all the school's fault. Um, what they should have done, though, when I did drop the course, was not support the behavior. It should have been, oh, well, now you're going to be a credit short, and you won't get to graduate with anything else. This is life, and life has consequences. But schools almost don't want consequences anymore, I feel sometimes. So they let me use a correspondence course booklets. I worked on those booklets and got a partial credit, and they gave me some credit for the course, the class I'd done thus that far. So that equals 1 credit, and I could graduate. They shouldn't have done that. If you blow up at your boss and say you quit the job, they don't give you the job back in a different manner. You know how, that didn't teach me any coping strategies. I didn't have to learn how to deal with my anxiety what my anxiety would have been over the weekend. I didn't have to learn to cope in the stupid class because sometimes life is stupid. I didn't develop any coping skills. So as a result, only in the past couple of years have I been really working on emotional control and other things because now I'm aware of this huge deficit. I quit a job in 2015 because, and I go into this in a lot of detail in another video, but I was frustrated, overwhelmed, I felt bad. And with mental health, it's not like you can say, I'm throwing up, I need to go home. Mental health, no one cares. Sorry, that's my cell phone in the background, just ignore that. So yeah, the only way I knew how to get out of there was to say I quit. So I went to the supervisor's office, yelled that I quit, and before she could even respond, I was I was grabbing my coat and purse and going to the bus stop. So I quit a job. I had no other coping skills to get through the rest of that day and deal with the problems. I just quit. And I want to throw in here because I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the schools completely. My best friend works in special ed, and I know that in many circumstances their hands are tied by the parents or by rules or other teachers or what have you. That was not the case here. I hadn't high functioning enough, and even if my mom paid zero attention to me, um, they could have still worked on coping strategies instead of giving in to my whim. And now I went to the Catholic board in this district, and the individual who committed the crime was in the public board, and they have a very different special ed system. So I can't say for sure that he went through the same sort of hand holding and coddling I did. I wasn't in, but I suspect there was some of it. I suspect there was, they don't let us flounder. You know, we don't learn to cope. And I suspect that a lack of coping skills that he could have partially learned in school is a contributor, and therefore his Asperger's is a contributor to this crime. And it shows how much work needs to be done. Um, and in no way am I saying Asperger's excuses him. It doesn't make you violent. He probably had more than one thing going on. And also, when it comes to coddling, it's definitely not just special needs. Um, you see it, but it's with the special needs, I think it has a worse impact because we may not develop skills that those other kids would anyway. Um, and I'm going to wrap it up by bringing up something that Dr. Temple Grandin has said in a number of her books. She's always saying that she was born in 1947. So she would have gone to school when teachers were authoritarian, kids were scared of the teachers, and society had more rules, was more black and white. You wear this here, you say that there. And she went through school in that kind of environment, where manners were literally smacked into you. And she believes if she hadn't and had gone to school in a different time, that she would not have been successful. because there were no accommodations for her right through her PhD. She did it all on her own, and she believes that by being thrown into the regular school system and being told to figure it out helped her develop the skills to deal with the real world. And she feels like it needs to go back that way for kids with Asperger's. And I halfway agree with that. Um, I know personally, I think I would fail everything if I'd gone to school then. Because if I'm intimidated, I'm not going to go ask for help. I'm not going to, I don't see it. I did have a sort of an old school teacher in grade 2, and it wasn't great. Um, so the reason I think she's half right, that this is a factor, that we don't have such a black and white, rules heavy society. This is a factor in problems with adults with Asperger's now, is the fact that my dad held down an office job for decades. I don't know if he's been diagnosed since we estranged from him, but we have the theory that he has Asperger's and is now 66 years old. And I'm sure many other older people are walking around with a diagnosis they don't know about and were able to at least superficially cope because of when they were brought up. I say superficially because in the home was a different story. But yeah, he worked in an office in accounting, was even got up to a managerial position. But at home there were issues. So I would like to see the pendulum go back somewhat. Coddle the special needs kids less, but still offer some support because he would have had nothing. He, probably would have maybe had an easier family life if he had some other support. But he also had a lot less coddling, much more authoritarian. And it, did make him have a successful career. So I don't think she's completely wrong. I hope I've been clear. I feel a little disjointed. I'm gonna wrap that up, and those are my remarks. 100% my opinion. You can completely disagree with me, because it's an opinion, it's not a fact. So I just don't bring up, immigration or Islamophobia or terrorism, because that's not at all what happened here, and it's not relevant or helpful. Thank you.